Are we live again?
Oh,
Yeah, we're live now.
okay, let's ask them. Can y'all can y'all see?
Let's take a
Oh
break.
my god!
Oh my god! We are
What have we been doing for the last 20 minutes?
so for the past 10 minutes we've just been talking to each other. Oh my god, we are so sorry, everyone.
Where do we continue off from?
Yeah,
Um,
where do we jump off from?
Wait, my boyfriend has been watching since earlier, and he said that he last heard. Oh my god, he last heard Gail talking about her tea.
What?
My tea. What? That was like a long
So technically, I'm not late, right? Technically,
time.
because we just
That's
started.
fine. That's totally fine.
Go me.
We love it. We
Oh
love
god.
it.
That was like a long time ago.
We
Yeah.
can start with
Oh my.
again. Let's start with like the question.
Oh my god. All right. So everyone, we are so sorry. Live stream cut out. And it only just started back up again. So you didn't miss anything because we were talking to ourselves. So to the audience, I am so sorry, Rin, Gail, and Kay. It's a good thing that we only had one question that we started. So I'm so sorry, but let's start from the beginning. I'm very sorry to have you guys are gonna have to talk about the first question earlier. But on the bright side, Shealea, you're technically not late.
Exactly. I fell asleep,
Yeah.
but did not miss anything.
Yeah, all right. So thanks everyone for being patient with us. So let's get the live show started in real time, in full time. So um I'm very sorry again, but Rin, Kay, and Gail, since we're now live again, could I just ask you guys again to tell our audience a little bit about yourselves and your books that are out there? I'm so sorry. Rin, let's just start with you, like how we did it earlier.
All right. My name is Rin. My first book's out, which was The Girl from the Well and the Suffering, is actually on sale now on all ebook platforms. It's $1.99 until August 2025. In the meantime, my next book coming out is the sequel to The Never Tilting World. I do not have that book yet because of shipping concerns. So this is what it looks like, the first book. The second book is called The Ever Cruel Kingdom, and it's coming out on November 10 this year. My other book is a sequel that's coming out March 2021. It's the sequel to Wicked as You Wish. Oops, here. And I can't give much details about it yet. And the date of release is subject to change given everything that's going on. Oh, and here is my son, Ezia, who just wandered in. Say hi. His name is Ezio because I am a gamer and I named him after an Assassin's Creed character. But that's enough about me. Gail?
Oh yeah, I'm Gail D. Villanueva, and I'm the author of My Faith According to the Butterfly. And yeah, I write MG, middle grade, and my upcoming book is Sugar and Spite. I still don't have the arcs yet because, like Rin said, the post office is like a mess right now because of the pandemic. So anyway, the cover, this is how it looks like. And it's coming out on April 20, 2021, and it's already available for pre-order on the online retailers. Although we still have it's still the description there is still like the outdated, so they're gonna like Scholastic still needs to update the metadata. But the thanks. Yeah, it's so cute, right? There's a dog. Honestly, like I was telling them a few minutes ago, is that I honestly don't know which one I like better, the butterfly or the sugar and spice one. But my husband likes butterfly, and personally, he said I'm just biased to this cover because there's a dog and there's a cat. So there. That's me, and yeah, I can start pre-ordering it, and just watch out for it in 2021. Okay.
I am KS Villoso. I'm a epic fantasy author, and this is my first tradpub book. It came out March this year, and the sequel is
hope
already
so.
out next month. And book 3 is coming out next year in May if everything goes well, which we're hoping. So yeah.
Okay, so just to yeah, there is a readathon happening for Wolf of Oranero. Read along, yes, this August, and the book tour for the Star Falcon is being hosted by Shealea, and it goes live when does it start? Yeah.
What? Oh my god. Wait. So
When-
the book tour for next month is like, I think it's 2 weeks. It starts in September 16, I think, or second week of September. And then the hashtag for it is Dethrone the Dragon Lord, which I came up with Kay, because like we were like, okay, we need to think of like a hashtag that, you know, encapsulates like the book. And then what was our first hashtag?
For Wolf?
For
Oh,
the
it was
second
Kate?
for
Oh,
the
for-
second book.
For the second book, I don't remember.
I just remember making a bunch of anti-Rael hashtags, and we found one that we liked. So that was basically
Resist Rael.
yeah, resist Rael in both sense of the word. So
Oh,
okay. Oh, and then if you haven't seen the second
There we
cover, you should, because Rael's there. And yes, there you go. Dethrone the Dragon Lord. We had like a different hashtag in the beginning, but we changed it because obviously we wanted something that was catchier. But resist Rael is also acceptable. There's also Yeet Rael. Yeet?
Yeet.
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 So yeah.
Right.
Like dragon.
yeah, and Bridget says drag him.
Drag him where though? That is the question. Drag him where?
Let's keep it PG. Rin's kid is in the background, so let's keep it PG.
Oh no.
All right. So thanks guys. To everyone watching, when we upload this video to my YouTube channel, I will leave links and pre-order links to all of the books that Rin, Kay, and Gail just talked about in the description box. Go check them out. Particularly for us international folks, we will probably be buying, or if we're going to be buying these books, we'd probably be getting them as ebooks because everyone's been mentioning, but shipping's been really difficult. So yeah, good luck. All right, so let's get started with the next question, Shealea.
Okay, so the first question is, what was it like to navigate traditional publishing as Filipinos, and in particular for Rin and Gail, what was it like to navigate traditional publishing as homeland Filipinos?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it got recorded, like what I said earlier. In case it wasn't, so yeah. The main challenge, even though like email is now available, is that when I was querying, the main issue that I had was like people were saying like I can't connect. Like now that's like a general umbrella rejection, but when you're Filipino and you live in the Philippines and it makes you kind of like doubt yourself that maybe was it because my book is too Filipino, is was it American enough, and is it something that's not gonna fly in the American market? So yeah, it adds a layer of uncertainty for you when you have like when the culture that you use is very much different from the culture where you want to publish your book in. So yeah, that's one of the major challenges that I had before. But luckily, like uh, I have like somebody actually like felt connected to my work, Alyssa Eisner Henkin, yeah, and she's like yeah, she's been championing my work since day one, and I'm totally grateful for that, and I'm glad that I found somebody like them, and anybody's like querying right now. Yeah, it is. It is like it is especially even harder if you're like a Filipino and you live in the Philippines because, like I said, it's like you're not sure if it's just a craft thing or if it's your culture that they just cannot get into. So, yeah, there. That's my sub story.
I feel like there's also an element of frustration there because, like, let's be honest. All of us readers who are not white, we're not American.
Did
Uh-oh.
American or white, we've had to connect. Hang on, my internet is there's
you can't connect?
You can't connect either.
very
Uh-oh.
wrong with my internet. I am so sorry. Give me a second. There you go. Okay, it's all better. Sorry, I was saying there's an element of frustration for it because like I mean everyone in this live is not we're not white, we're not American, but we've had to connect to books feature characters for most. So there's an element of sort of wondering if we had to do that to the books that you guys have published since time immemorial. You should be able to do that to our books as well. And I'm pretty sure this is applicable to people of color across the board and not just to Filipinos in particular. So yeah. Thanks,
Yeah,
Gail,
there's
for that. Go. Sorry, Shealea, go.
Oh, there's also the idea that, obviously for fantasy, for example, there's a lot of creatures that don't really exist in real life, but these readers are able to connect with fairies and dragons and
Thank you.
whatever have you, but claim that they can't relate to people who actually exist, people who, live in the same earth. It's kind of like really weird that like Filipinos, for example, were treated like, oh, like this is such an alien thing to me, like I can't grasp it. But it's easy for them to empathize with like super old vampires who prey on teenage girls.
Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
do want to say that when people say that they can connect with like fairies and elves and whatnot, it's almost always because it's code written as white. Like it doesn't matter what species it is. It has white characteristics. It has white customs, white culture ish, and that's what the people are claiming to connect to. And it's not the same when it's a POC that's writing about their culture. And of course, they're going to be writing about culture that they're not familiar with. And in books, most readers, whether they admit it or not, tend to look for the familiarity of things in books, which is why they like reading the same kind of tropes over and over again. It's that same thing. And the I couldn't connect is not a new thing, because I started querying in 2008, and that was something that I received very frequently when I get rejected. And in 2008 as well, I mentioned this before when it wasn't live streaming, but I am old. Like don't let this fool you. I am an auntie. And in 2008 there were no email submissions. Like everything had to be shipped out. And if you're living in the Philippines and most of the agencies you're querying are in the United States, that means $40 a package. and so I have to like cherry pick really the agencies that I am allowed. I think that I could query well, and when it all adds up, it's really expensive, and to do that and to receive something like I couldn't connect. And in fact, I was very vocal about this when I first queried. I queried with Wicked as You Wish. That was the first book I ever finished, the first book I ever queried, despite the fact that it only came out this year. And like two or three agents actually asked me to make the main character, white as the revise and resubmit. And I almost bit that. Like I was so desperate that I'm shelling out so much money. I couldn't really like it came to a point where I really started doubting myself. Like, oh my gosh, what I'm spending so much money to get this, and I almost did it. And at the last minute, I decided, you know what, I will query with another book, and I will see if that book works or if it's just really bad agents that I'm querying. And I did, and I was
You
was
probably did.
yeah, and I was very lucky because that book hit. I found my ideal agent. Her name's Rebecca Podos, by the way. She's also a writer, and I've been with her ever since, and I've been happy ever since. So it's always there are a lot of like built-in disadvantages, especially when when you're querying and you're not from the United States. And there's a lot of built-in disadvantages that you don't actually realize until you start querying. So it's really just hard work and a bit of good luck.
Thank you, Rin. And as one of the audience members said, I am really happy that you didn't back down on making the characters of Wicked as You Wish white and American. So yeah, thanks for sticking with Wicked as You Wish and letting it stay as it's originally meant to be. All right, Kate, can we
So
can we hear from you?
so I started querying in 2005.
Wow.
So that was 15
Old.
years ago.
You're
And
older.
I was I think I was 18.
We have a Lola.
I think I was 18, and I just finished my first fantasy novel, which I actually wrote in the Philippines when I was there for 6 months. And coming from Canada, so I had a very similar experience where shipping it to the United States is not cheap. It's it's still kind of pricey coming from up here, and most of them are in the US. And querying that long, I did not get a single like revise or resubmit or like any partial request. So I did not know if what I was doing was right or wrong. It just felt like, like it was like throwing your work into the void. So there was no
And your money,
feedback.
I think.
And your money.
And your money.
I didn't have a job
Your
then either.
pocket's
So.
void.
You're throwing your money into the void, basically.
Yeah, so there was no feedback telling me if what I'm doing is right or wrong, right? There's no, and the problem is there's no blueprints for like for fantasy written by someone like a person of color for me. And I didn't know all this stuff about like, oh, they can't connect, and like it didn't occur to me. So I thought I was the one who wasn't doing a great job of writing. And but like that went on for a long time. Like I tried going from fantasy to actually going to like young adult kind of urban fantasy, and I tried to query that, and the same thing, like up until 2012 there was no response. So what I did, because I still love to write, I didn't stop writing. I was writing like a lot of projects, a lot of epic fantasies, and eventually I just decided to self-publish because I was done. I was so tired. It's been 7 years, and I decided like I was gonna rewrite this one novel I've been querying, and I was gonna just self-publish it myself, like self-publish it. And I had a couple of friends who were helping me out, and they were doing all the editing for that. And I finished that whole series, and then I was gonna do a fourth one, like I was gonna do kind of a follow-up, and that I self-published that again, but now that got picked up by a traditional publisher. Like I think it was only maybe 4 months after it got published. So that was the ironic twist of
Sorry, the
events
question
for
made
me.
me laugh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it was an ironic twist of events for me, because basically 13 years after first started querying was when I started getting attention from my work. So I like it, and it was only recently that I started learning a lot of that stuff about them not being able to connect, and suddenly it made sense. Because you're writing, especially in epic fantasy, it's a very white male environment. Like like not saying that as a bad thing per se, but it's very
No, you can
different.
say it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing.
It's
You
very
can say it's a bad
different
thing.
from
It's the worst thing.
it's very different from what I write. And even when I self-published that first book, there were a lot of weird comments that, like, to me was like they didn't understand what kind of Asian you were. They didn't like they were saying things like, "Oh, this I don't know what's happening in this story," but to me the story reads like a lot of Western like white male authored books that I've read, like especially when they say that your book has debut problems. It means it takes a while for the plot to get going or something like that. I think with that first book, they were saying that it took about until the 50% mark for the plot to get going, which is a problem many books have. So there's a sense of that is maybe a bit more unfair when you're wading into those waters, because you are getting judged for things that they are not even looking at the other books for. And now you
Oh
have
yeah,
to you, yeah,
totally agree.
like just getting started is hard, because you have to think like them to understand what you're doing wrong
For sure,
to
for
them,
sure.
whereas they don't even have to actually like put themselves in your shoes to see that, hey, this story actually makes sense from your perspective. And yeah, like the impatience, all of that, like they can't connect. So it's challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just to add, no. I really not hate naman, but there I go. I knew this was gonna happen, that I was gonna start using Tagalog words, knowing that all of us are Filipino. But anyway, um I understand that sometimes the criticism of, oh, the plot was slow is a valid one, but in particular when it's criticism that's aimed at a book that is written by a non-Western author, that criticism of like there was no plot or whatever kind of rubs me the wrong way, because it's a very non-Western style of storytelling. So to me, it just reads as someone who's not willing um to try out what the voice in terms of storytelling would sound like from other cultures. Um, as another example, it is a criticism that I've heard a lot of. It's a criticism that I've heard frequently about the book Empire of Sand, by Tasha Suri, which I think is also published by Orbit, the same publisher that publishes The Wolf for Yarrow. And a lot of people say that there's no plot and all of that, but it's also, if you've read Empire of Sand, it's a very South Asian, very Indian way of storytelling. So when I see reviews happening, to me it just reads that someone's unwilling to see what storytelling is like from an Indian point of view, and that's often the criticism that the books of people of color get, especially if it's a book that involves a secondary world, so fantasy or sci-fi. So just to add what Kay said, very much I agree with what everyone was saying. So yeah, thank you for sharing your experiences.
Yeah, just to add back
Someone
Rin's
said
just to
to
add.
share the.
Oh my god, wait. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead,
Okay,
Shealea.
so I feel like I've said this over and over again, but the Bone Witch, like Rin's book, really like opened my eyes to that reality that we are taught to accept one particular kind of storytelling and it's very Western centric. And I think it's sad. I think here in the Philippines, of course, because since our education system has been like was heavily influenced by the American occupation. So the type of writing that we're also familiar with is very much like the plot, and then there's like a climax, and it pulls like that whole triangle thing, and we don't really question it until we see something that's different from that. So for me, that was Rin's book, and that was a total game changer for me. And I think that's why it's important to have these books exist, because they make you question things like, how come this is my idea of what good storytelling is? How come this is the kind of like media that I'm used to? And it's really important to have these books out there.
You know what? Adding to that, I'm gonna like since I write MG, it's generally like plot based. Like from the first chapter alone, you already have like a plot. You have to establish it, since you need to attract kids to you want kids to get into the story as early as the first chapter. But the thing is, being an author of color in general, the bar is high. No matter what, even if you're like writing um in a style that they are used to, they will find a way to like to just nitpick basically. Like a friend of mine went into my DM once, really angry, like what's wrong. I was like, what's wrong? I don't usually read reviews, um but he was like in my DMs, like really complaining about something that about a review that he read. Like he was saying that there was a there was a reviewer who said that their issue with My Fate According to the Butterfly is that it was the lives of the kids in the Philippines somehow isn't too different from the American kids. And I was like, why is that a problem? Well, did you really expect us to be living in huts or like by the beach? We don't have like, you know what I mean? Like whatever you do, you're gonna be like criticized for it, because people like you're entering into into an industry where people are used to getting books from white authors, and here you are, all brown, all Filipino, like, going into their space. The bar is high for you, so no matter what you do, you're basically just anything you do, even if you adapt or whatever, you're gonna get flack for it. Somehow there will eventually find a way to like find something that they don't want in it, just because it's different. It came from a different perspective, a perspective that's not they're used to. So, yeah.
You know, just to add to my fantasy earlier, but the inability to sort of see beyond when it comes to books that are written by authors of color. It's not unique to fantasy. It happens in contemporary too. So, sort of to add to what Gail said about someone couldn't believe that Filipino kids have this, have that. He's not here. He's not here in this live show right now. But I remember one of the reviews that I read of Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Ribay, who is another Filipino author. One of the reviews said something about how they couldn't believe that there was like PlayStations in the Philippines, and I'm like, PlayStation ships internationally. We have video games.
No PlayStation in the Philippines, really now.
That made my head hurt.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of wish there isn't PlayStation in the Philippines. So, like, always be more productive.
Goodreads, and it was
You get the weirdest questions. I think I had an AMA once where someone asked, "If you're from the Philippines, how did you get to Canada?"
You teleported. Okay, I think you teleported.
no.
The flying LRT.
I had another
Teleported.
question. I had another question where
Magic.
it's like, why is your name westernized?
We slept.
Why is it?
I think like since we're like talking about the
Oh,
questions, like one of the my favorite probably is like, why do you speak English so well? It's got to a point that you know what. Every time somebody asks me that question, the answer that I have like in mind is like, it's because your country forced upon us like 50 years of colonization and learning English. You forced us to learn English, so that, you know what. So basically, don't ask that kind of question from me, because the answer that you're gonna get like a historical lecture from me if you like ask me that question now. I used to like to be like I studied in school, I was nice about it, but when it got to the point that I kept getting that question over and over again, I'm just like, you know what, whatever, go. This is what happened in history, it's because of you. That's why. That's why. It's your fault. Your country colonized us and forced upon us English. That's why I can speak English so well. And it usually stops the conversation. And you know, I'm kind of glad I'm doing that. It's like and the next time that most of them, like not all of them, would go back to me and say like, "Oh my God, I read this article. You're right." And kind of like it's a good learning opportunity as well. And like, but the emotional, the annoyance that I get from it, it's just like, it's basically like I kind of like check it up as part of being an author living in the Philippines, like being a Filipino navigating American waters. It's just part
Someone
of
did
it.
ask.
It doesn't change even when you're here.
Yeah.
You still get the same comments.
Someone did ask me like, if you're Filipino, why are you also Chinese? And we're like, are there no Asian Americans in the United States you congealed mollusk? Why are like he seems to think like everybody in the Philippines looks Filipino. Like that's it. Like there's that brown skinned, kinky haired connotation of what a Filipino should look like, and he assumes that you know every country outside of the United States is a monolith, which I really really hate. And yeah, like
That's so weird to me that that's so weird to me that people have an assumption that a country is a monolith. I mean, like, look at this chat in and of itself. We're all Filipinos here in this live show, but we don't look a thing alike. I mean, that's so weird to me that yeah.
Yeah, don't get me started on the whole all
So
Asians
yeah,
look the same
we
thing.
kind of we kind of crossed over into the next question that we have for you guys. So you actually were able to talk about it a little bit, but our next question actually is that all three of you have written books that heavily involve or are inspired by Filipino mythology, imagery, experiences. You guys were able to talk about it a little bit, but in terms of maybe mindset, emotions, Filipino-ness into a book that you knew was going to be eventually consumed by people internationally or a white audience, a primarily white audience. We can start with Rin.
you were breaking up. I couldn't.
Yeah, we couldn't get
Oh,
what were you
hello,
saying.
sorry.
What was the question?
I'm so sorry. So yeah, the question was, I'm sorry, my internet is really bad.
Okay.
The question was that all three of you have written books that heavily involve or are inspired by Filipino mythology, imagery, and your experiences. So, what was it like for you to write something that was really personal about your life or who you are, your identity, into a book that you knew was going to be consumed by a national audience, a primarily white audience? How was that for you guys?
I can answer it. 'Cause, so I have been
Yeah, go
I have
ahead.
been published since 2014. So I like to think that in every book I've written, there's a part of me in there always. Whether it's something about my identity or something about my culture. And of all those things that I've published, Wicked as You Wish right now is probably the most personal one for me to date because it is the first time that I've written something so unapologetically Filipino. And it's also the first time when I get so much backlash for it. Like, if you look at some of my reviews, you'll see like 10% when they're 10% of the way, and oh, I can't connect to this. Oh, it feels so weird. And 10% of the first 10% of my book was mainly about me talking about being Filipino. Like that is 10% of the book. Just Filipino things, Filipino food, Filipino attitudes, and that's the thing that they're complaining, oh, I can't finish this because I can't connect to the plot or the 10% of what I've read. So that is the biggest backlash that I've actually received in that I'm taking personally. And you know, I really there's not really much you can do about it as an author, but I try to focus on the one thing that I can do, which is to keep writing more unapologetic Filipino books because the more unapologetic Filipino books that there are out there, the more people get more familiar with the culture, and they stop. Well, actually, if I'm being honest, they're probably not gonna stop complaining about how they can't connect and stuff like that. But I've decided that those are not my target audience. My target audience are those who want to know about me as a Filipino and how I process it through my books. And that's the goal that I want to do. Write more unapologetic Filipino books.
Basically, in short, in Filipino, ako ayaw mo, wag mo. Right? No, I like, if you don't want it, like, don't get it, basically. Loosely translated. But I think it speaks better in Filipino. Like, kung ayaw mo, wag mo.
In other words, no limitangin na kayong lahat.
Yeah.
Di wag.
Yeah. Ayaw mo, wag mo. Eh, di wow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's actually what my husband what every time my husband like tells me, like he's the one who's like, me, I don't like reviews messing with my head, good or bad. It's my husband who likes reading the reviews. And he's like, every time he's like, he sees like a bad review, I'm gonna just click Eddie wow. And it annoys me that whenever I react that way, ayaw niya, duwag, something like that. Well,
Yeah. So I think we just gave the audience members who don't speak Tagalog, we just gave you guys a vocabulary assignment. Find out what all of that means.
yeah. Ayaw mo, wag mo. Oh yeah, I think they should know like Eddie Wow.
That should be on a shirt. No limitanginan yung lahat.
Yeah. It's needed. Like you need to know like it needs to be part of your vocabulary to say Eddie Wow.
Actually, I've been trying to get people to understand what sana all means because I use it a lot.
Yeah, seriously though, I mean, the whole thing, the having like a very Filipino girl set in the Philippines, like basically all of my books are gonna be like that. And even Sugar Inspired, it's set in a fictional island, but it's also in the Philippines, and it's a totally different world from My Fate According to the Butterfly, and it's much more magical, but it's still in the Philippines in current times. And to be honest, every time parents send me photos of their kids, like UK, thank you,
She
photos.
loved your book.
Yeah,
She
thank you.
loved
Like
it.
that made my day. Like every time they send photos of kids reading, it's just so empowering. I think that's a term. It's empowering. Like you finally have this opportunity to bring other people into your world. Like I've long like looking. I've always been the one looking in, like into the culture of American culture, Western culture. It's always been like that. Like ever since I was a kid, I have to to be the one to adjust to it and learn their culture, and it's empowering that finally they're the ones who's gonna go into my world, like have a peek of what it's like to be a Filipino. And that's yeah, it's a great feeling. Like all those things that terrible things you go through, kind of like difficult things, but at the end of the day, it's those readers, those young readers, especially in my case, the kid readers, that that really matter, because you gave them what's even more fun is that every time they see that, like they insist that they're the kid on the photo on the book cover. I've had like 10 kids tell me, did you like model this kid from me? Like, how did you know? I'm like, no, I really have no idea. It's just a coincidence, but it's quite like it's a great feeling that they can see themselves in the story for once. And yeah, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Um, I remember when I saw the cover of Fate According to the Butterfly, and also The Wolf of Orenyaro, and to see like characters on a book that are, I mean, they're really unmistakable as being Filipino. That was really something. And I remember when I read My Fate According to the Butterfly, the first thing I thought of was, wow, if I had this book when I was 11, 12 years old, that would have really changed like how I look at myself, how I look, what I look for in books. So it's really great that kids can have that representation now, and to read it in a book as well. So I'm pretty sure that I speak for all of the Filipinos in the audience and everyone who's ever read the books, that we're grateful that you guys didn't bow to pressure from agents or the industry to make characters white or more less Filipino or more relatable to a white audience. So yeah, thank you for that. Kay, did you have anything to add before we move to the next question?
Yeah, like so I kind of started writing fantasy to kind of reconnect back to the Philippines, because I've at that point I've been gone for 5 years, and then I went back, and I was there for 6 months, and I did nothing but write. And that's how I started world building in the world that I still use now. So a lot of I kind of did that to kind of ground my head in all the details of the world. So like when I'm describing something, I might be describing like a road in Bicol, or the street where I grew up.
Oh, you're
So
Bicolana.
yes,
Ah.
random bayani.
Nah, yeah,
So
Tagalog though.
yeah. so so I started doing that to reconnect, and I guess coming from the diaspora, there was a kind of a barrier where like I was looking back at my childhood, and I was trying to use those details to ground myself in this world. So when I started querying, I didn't know that it wasn't like the people weren't going to connect or whatever. I just wanted to write what I wanted to, like I wanted to express myself through the world, and then through what the characters go through. So when I started writing in fantasy, it's basically like my whole myself is in there. as a Filipino, not just in the characters, but in the way the world is, the way I design the world, which is there's a part there that's not colonized, and I just allowed it to progress beyond that. But there's also parts in the north that are colonized, and in a way, it's how I explore a lot of the issues, or a lot of the issues of being a Filipino. But it's very much for myself. It's not like, but fantasy is supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be that it's not just it's you can't say that it's not political. When you write
Yeah.
fantasy, a lot of real world issues go into it, and it's interesting how people responded to it, where a lot of the times they don't see it. They're like, I can't connect. I don't know, what's happening here. I don't know how to place myself, which was very interesting because it's not a real place. It's fantasy. There always is the sense of immersion with fantasy, like in a lot of fantasy that we read. But yeah, that's been my experience. That's the only way I know how to write. So it's take it or leave it, like you guys said. It is what it is.
We need a shirt that says that. Ayaw mo, edi wag. Alright, thanks, Kay. So let's move to the next question, Shealea.
Okay, so I think we've talked about, I mean, we've sort of like touched on this topic already, but let's go back and talk about your first books or your debuts. Can you give us an overview of the writing process that went into your first book? Like, how many drafts did it take? Did you show your friends or family? Did you get early readers and and all those other details that you want to share with us? Also, look at Kara's comment. Okay, just saying. Okay.
My process was embarrassing. No.
Okay, for my first book, that was The Girl from the Well, and I miss those days because writing was so easy. It seemed like it was so easy for me back then, probably because I had no deadlines and I made my own deadlines. But when I wrote The Girl from the Well, I did it in a matter of like 2 months, which was the fastest for me. And I wasn't even sure about much of the writing process because I just had my kid. No, that was the Bone Witch. I didn't remember most of what I written when I was writing the Bone Witch. I actually didn't remember most of what I wrote there because I just had my kid, my first kid, my eldest son, who you saw just a while ago. And I was functioning on like 3 hours of sleep every day while I was writing that to boot. So I did not know what I was writing, and I was really pleasantly surprised when I was reading through the draft for the first time. Like, who wrote this? But with The Girl from the Well, it was actually pretty easy because I had no responsibilities then. It took me 2 months, and I mean, I don't know if you guys knew the story behind The Girl from the Well, but basically I wrote it. I was way back then. I was working at a really really old, dilapidated building, and there was like a Japanese company a floor above me, and I worked overtime because this was a telecom company. I was always tired, and when I worked overtime, I came home really late, and they worked overtime and they came home really late, and the building was really old and creepy. So when the elevator sort of goes down and they open the elevator to see me standing there, pale faced, I had really long hair, I loved dark clothes, and my head was always bent over because I was texting. They start screaming, like they start screaming at it, like they think I'm a ghost. It happened on 3 occasions. Like three of those Japanese people working on the floor above me at 3 separate occasions. I managed to scare with that, and it came to the point where they got used to me. They finally got used to me, and they started calling me Sadako-chan every time they saw me. And that was basically the inspiration for The Girl from the Well, which is a horror story about a good quote unquote ghost who hunts down murderers. So, it was very easy to write, I think, because I took so much of who I was into the story. So I didn't really think too much when I was writing it. But I am a planter. I'm mostly a planter, half plotter and a half pantser. So I outline everything. I have like index cards and like whiteboards and everything. But when I start writing, I deviate almost 180 degrees sometimes from what I've outlined, and I pants my way through. And I keep doing the outline because it gives me structure despite me pantsing it through. So I my writing process is very chaotic. So I'm not sure what you guys can get from it because every book is different and it's always chaotic. So if you're thinking about like getting some tips about writing process, I can give you like outlines and stuff, but the process itself, I really don't know how to explain how I write my things.
Well, I'm like the opposite. I'm like an extreme planner. It probably has something to do with the fact that I also do web design and development. And before I get started in a project, I make sure that I have all the details ready. And so it basically my writing process is similar. So I can't start writing any word unless I have like character descriptions. I should know my characters, everyone, my main cast. I should know everyone by heart, and I should have like a map. I draw it, and I don't just draw it. I use Photoshop. It has to be like
Legit.
legit legit map. And then
So
what else do I do? Like I have like a Pinterest board. I also have like a music. I need to have a real feel of the story before I start writing it. But when I do, I just like really just power through it. And the thing is, it's like really methodological. Anyway, that thing. I always like have trouble saying that. I always start like I have an outline, and then from the outline I break it up into chapters, and from each chapter I make uh get this, I make a script, like have all the dialogue talking, like just dialogue and some description, like something like that. And then after that I'm gonna like make it prose, and then I'm gonna insert the interiority. So like with Butterfly, my first draft was actually just 27,000 words, and I wrote it in under a month. But the preparation was like more than that. And I think I revised it with Erin and Trada Kelly. I love you, Erin. You're probably not watching. You're the best. But and Erin, like, she helped me with editing it, and then I got an agent after a month. And then my agent Alyssa is like, she's incredibly editorial, and she made me. We went through 5 revision rounds over 6 months. So by the time that I had a book deal, I was like, my editor's like, "Oh, we're gonna do a lot of changes." I'm like, "Yeah, bring it on." I'm like used to it. Like, come on, come on, bring on the edits. I was like numb to it because I was pretty much used to having like big edits. So we also did like a major revision for My Fate According to the Butterfly. The ending was very different, and yeah, I actually like put the a link to the ending in my newsletter, and it's it was at that point that it really changed the story. It came from a tragic ending with no stand to a to what it is now, a hopeful ending. So it's just like totally different. So I did that in a few months, considering that the book came out and after a year. So it was a really, really stressful moment. Yeah, it was kind of like a pitch wars thing. I was used to it. But another thing that I kind of like do, and I think it might be hopeful for useful for people who are like visual like me, is that I always choose a TV show or a movie to pattern my characters to. like especially my main character. So like for my faith according to the butterfly, my peg, if you notice it, it's going to be Chuck. As in that old. Sab is very much like Chuck. Sab and Pepper are like Chuck and Morgan in that old TV show. And in Sugar and Spite, yeah, in Sugar and Spite, my peg was Avengers, Iron Man, and Captain America. So that's
Wait.
why, like, yeah,
Wait,
it's
so
a yeah, Civil War. I mean, come on, it's Sugar and Spite. it's a
I
Civil
was
War.
already sold, but now I am oversold as
Yeah,
a Marvel trash.
yeah, it's Jolino is a lot like Captain America and Claudine. If I think like older like Kay, I'm pretty sure you recognize those names like Jolina and Claudine. Like
I
with our age. with with people's age like that. Anyway, yeah, it's
I was born in the early 90s, so I recognize those
yeah, Jolina and
names.
Claudine. And the books that I'm working on now is that are like more on based on K dramas. So the only thing that I can say because my agent would rather me not talk about it much, but it would probably be a mashup of Crash Landing on You and Descendants of the Sun. There. So yeah. Oh my god. Like
All right.
yeah. Jolene
Okay,
and
so
Clean,
People
yes.
are reacting.
the youngest here, I don't know those people, but I'm going to support you.
Jolene and Claudine. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, but they also have a friend named Marvin. Yeah.
No!
They have a friend named Marvin, and they also have a friend named Judy and Anne.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gail,
It's an
just rename your book to Mara Clara.
yeah. It's actually TGIS.
Just rename it to Mara Clara. Mara Clara was a very popular soap opera.
There's Angelou too as well, by the way.
So
There's Angelou as well. Judy and Anne are like twins.
Oh my.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we have a question. Will Jolina have butterfly clips?
No. Jolina is like she likes having are you like talking about clips like literally clips for the hair? I'm not sure I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean by it's all butterfly clips? But well Jolina is for the hair no. She's a bit of a tomboy actually. She's kind of like me when I was like a kid. I didn't really like wearing stuff like that because they always end up like getting lost. Yeah, I was like I was a handful as a kid, so let's just say that I had two yayas. Let that let that sink in. And I sometimes like find a way to escape them. So yeah, that was me, and Angelina is a little bit like that. And
All right.
oh, I'm
Thanks,
sorry, like
Gail.
yeah,
Kay.
K drama. Sorry, I just about that. Like I'm like totally obsessed with K dramas right now. Probably that's why. So yeah, there.
Alright, thanks,
Okay,
Gail.
let's see.
Go, Kay.
Wait, what was the question?
Your process, your writing process.
Oh, right. right.
Well, did you get distracted with
I was-
Jolina?
I was taking a trip back through memory lane. So, so The Wolf of Oriñaro is my tradpub debut, and it took me 3 months to draft that.
Wait, sorry. That was so funny, debut.
Debut.
I'm sorry, that was so funny.
Sorry,
Very
lumalabas yung
Filipino.
Tagalog.
So
So
Tagalog.
so my
Go,
debut
sorry, go.
novel. So it took me three months to draft that thing, but like it was supposed to be my take on the strong female character. So it's very deliberately attacking that trope in a way where I wanted to show like a character who is strong physically, who can fight, but I wanted to show her as a human being. And like the process was really straightforward for me. It like I do what Rin does, which is like half plotting and then half pantsing it. So I have predetermined points, and then how to get from point A to point B. I don't know. so I just I just like I'm at point
So that
A,
sounds
and then
exciting.
yeah, so to get to point B, I don't know what's gonna happen. So it just like sometimes it deviates, and I have to somehow pull the plot back to the outline. But sometimes I can't make it work, so I just throw out the outline. I make a new outline, and but Wolf itself was really straightforward. It was done in 3 months, and then I gave it to a beta reader, and then she checked the pacing and everything, and it was fine to her. And then it went to my husband, and
Oh
he
my
was
god, your
doing
husband read it?
yeah he's one of
Wow.
he says he's my biggest fan, which is weird.
Which is
You know, wow. Do you have
So
any idea how hard it is for me to have my husband read my book? He still hasn't.
Or mine. I've been published in 2014. He has not read any of the one of my books. He said he's gonna wait for the movie.
Oh god, that same excuse. So like Kay, you are so lucky that you have like a husband who reads your work. You should
I'm
appreciate
gonna I'm gonna show a picture of him just to embarrass him.
him.
So he's
Oh
one
my
of my he's one of my first beta readers, and then after he's done, since it was self published, then I sent it to ARC readers, and then it got self published the next year. And then when it got picked up by tradpub, we went back and did a whole revisions process, and we added some scenes, and we changed the beginning a little bit. But that book was like it was fairly straightforward. Not all books are that easy.
Yeah.
I've had books that basically you write them, and then you have to tear them apart, and then you have to make a Frankenstein, and then it looks it's
I have a question though. Like it has nothing to do with the book, but like did you have like just a picture of your husband lying around with
no, I have a picture of my kid as well.
Ah, that's sweet.
uh,
Oh.
Do I know what I have? What I have? I'm sorry, my husband got
oh
that
my
from.
god.
He knows I'm a fan. I can't like
Oh my
I can't like move the computer like Kay does, but this is the picture that I have beside me.
Did you go to his meet and greet, Gail?
No,
He had a meet
no.
and greet during the
But you know what? I bought 500 peso load just for this. And I really have no idea what to do with like a 500 peso load right now because there's a pandemic and I'm just here. But whatever. So anyway, like I wish Kay, I wish like honestly, like is he like also a writer? Your
No.
husband?
No.
Oh my god, that's so
He
nice.
doesn't even read the like novels. He says he just reads mine.
Ah.
Oh.
But yeah, I have this picture there. I don't pay him, so
but seriously, like that's nice. I mean, like it's so hard to get my husband to just read a single chapter of my book. And then the funny thing is that whenever I meet up with Rin, we bring our husbands along. And we always try grilling both of them about not reading our books. And they're just like, we're going to watch the movie.
What you should do is
Whatever.
you should put like a
But
whole chapter.
my husband has a hard time with pop culture references already. So, you know, I feel bad about asking him to read my book. He confused Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, so
They're both
I
white.
don't wanna
But-
like make him read more books, especially when he sees how thick they are. He's like, no, I don't want.
Put like a whole chapter and then say it's up like he's in there somewhere.
No, it
I
doesn't
have
work.
dedicated
I tried that.
There is one character in Wicked As You Wish that is him as a character. Basically, I think if you follow my tweets or you follow me on Twitter, you'd probably know who it is. Like the one character in Wicked As You Wish, he's a kind of prominent character, and he's basically a himbo.
So you basically just called your husband a himbo.
You just called your husband a himbo on a live show.
Lockian himbo. I like he's a himbo in that he's super smart. Like he knows things I do not know anything about, but he's like Sherlock Holmes style. Like he knows specific niche stuff, fields of study. He knows those. But when you ask him about like pop culture or like movie references or media, he pretty much does not know anything. Other than maybe video games. Video games. 'Cause
Oh
he
yeah,
plays
I mean like
but
her husband like talked to me like 30 minutes about solar panels. Seriously. Just 30 minutes of solar panels. And like the two of them, my husband and him, are like talking about I was like done with the solar panel talk, but they were still on it. I mean,
he's in the room with me right now while I'm
hi
saying-
Les.
Hi, Les.
Hi,
He needs to talk to you more about those solar panels, Gail.
No, you can talk to Mark. I'm fine. Actually, like it kind of makes sense. Like now that Kay mentioned that her husband is like her better reader as well, kind of makes sense why you have such a great bookshelf. Because her bookshelf, like half of it is like full of sports equipment, and like I have to like kick them out to make way for my books. And your bookshelf looks like a bookshelf.
Your bookshelf looks like a bookshelf.
Mine is like half sports equipment. Oh, like there's a basketball, there's like a volleyball, there's like exercise things there that I don't even know what they are, and books.
How do you put them on the bookshelf? Like
I don't know. I have no idea. He like puts my book in like weird ways, and then just stuff his ball in there or something. But that's why I don't like having my background as my bookshelf. It makes it look like I'm not a reader, and like it's not like case. Like it looks like a reader's bookshelf.
It's not
Mine-
always a good thing that my husband is the first reader, because then if there's something he doesn't like, which is I'm pretty sure he has a crush on her. And when I hurt her, he's not happy. He's like he reads it and then he's like, "Hey, on this page, this happened to her. Why?" I'm like you don't write a story without conflict. And then so book 3 hasn't come out yet. It's coming out next year. But he was the first reader of book 3, and he was he was crying.
Oh
No spoiler, like but it's easy to make him cry. It's not about a specific.
no! No, that doesn't reassure me at
No
all. I
spoilers.
know you. I read the first book.
But he gets so
sounds
mad.
Tragic.
He's like, change this. I'm like, I'm not gonna change it for you.
Listen, I am with your husband, okay? I am with your husband. Don't hurt her.
Oh, he ships Talion's husband, so I told him you're projecting a little too much. That's not you. So
In other words, ang feeler mo.
Can I just say though that this is like the most Tita thing ever? We're on a live show about your books, and then we immediately start ripping into your husband. This is the most Filipino auntie thing ever.
Yeah, seriously though, I like if I get him to read my book, that's gonna be like my. I keep telling him, you know what? I'm. I already have like my second book, and you still haven't read the first. And it's supposed to be an MG. I mean, do you see how like thin it is? I can totally understand with Rin. It's like it's a thick book, and like if he sees that, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be like intimidated. But if you like see this, do you have any idea? I was like, can you see how big the letters are, and how thick thin it is, and you haven't even read it? And I was like, every time, like, you know what, Kay? When you sent me the photo of your kid with my book, I showed it to him and said, like, aren't you ashamed, this kid? Finish my book and you haven't yet.
she's read it more than once. She keeps
Oh
rereading
my God!
it.
See, I'm gonna tell him that.
Like when I read your book, it took me like 2 hours, maybe.
I'm gonna tell him that. Like,
Not
and
even
I was
an
like,
hour.
no, I'm not embarrassed. He's a reader. I'm not. Like, what is
Yeah.
this? But she's like, you're like 38.
Oh no.
So
And
God,
a
Yes,
12-year-old
yes,
girl
right,
read
one day maybe he's like gonna be like, probably one day. I don't know. I'm not counting on it. I think I've gotten to the point that I've accepted it.
Not
That I'm
hopeful.
never gonna have like a better reader husband. So you gotta appreciate that better reader husband of yours, Kay. That's a rarity. I mean, like with Rin as well, like knowing that Les hasn't read any book.
after many years.
After many years, yeah, still hasn't read a book.
He was scared. 'Cause
We
I
talked a lot about your so we talked a lot about your writing process, your beta readers, and
And
it
your
was actually
husbands.
really your husbands. It was actually really interesting that you guys mentioned a lot of revisions. Particularly Kay, when you went to when you made the switch from self pub to traditional publishing, and there were a lot of revisions. So we actually wanted to ask you guys. I mean, it's a popular phrase in terms of writing, the phrase "murder your darlings," and there are certain scenes that won't work or that you have to take out. So we just wanted to ask you guys: are there any scenes that you took out that you're particularly proud of? I mean, you wish you wish that there could have been space for it, but unfortunately, it just didn't work in the book, or any little additional bits that you had to remove, but you didn't exactly like. I mean, you kept it or whatever, just because you have a particular fondness for it. Were there any scenes like that in any of your books?
Well, I did have a particular. I mentioned this in my newsletter. Is that there was a character named Greg originally who was supposed to be like Nadine's ex boyfriend, but in the story he didn't. When we were doing the revisions, he just didn't fit anymore anywhere. He's just there being hot. So it was like really no use for him aside from being like a babe. And it's an MG book, and like what's he gonna be doing? It's just hot. Just a hot boyfriend. That's it. And so it was really hard on me to take him out. So we just got like I just like thought about it and just thought about it, and eventually just merged him with another character, so he's there in spirit in Kuya Jepoy. So he's still hot, but he has a purpose. He's just not there as a pretty boy. So, But I,
Follow
I
the
totally
purpose.
whined to my editor about it. I was like, when we were talking about the revisions, and she was, well, we don't really need him. I'm like, but I need him in my life. So it's just like, yeah, you have to think it over a little bit more and probably factor him in some other ways and maybe in your future project. No, I need him here. And then eventually there, yeah, he got reincarnated as Kuya Jepoy, thankfully. Yeah, but it hurt to like remove him initially. Other than that, no, I'm not pretty attached to anyone except for
That's shocking, but okay. What about
Uh,
the other two?
Kay, do you want to start first?
You can start.
They both don't want to answer. They're like, no, you.
Well, for me, like, I don't usually get a lot of scenes cut out when it comes to the editing part. When it comes to my editor, because I do a lot of cutting before anybody else has ever seen it. So, but although in Wicked as You Wish, the sequel to Wicked as You Wish, there's gonna be some a really, I'm not sure what you call it, some a really, I guess, controversial thing that I've written that I am sure is gonna annoy all a certain subset of straight people. And I fought to keep it in the book because originally my editor wanted to cut it because I guess she was worried about what it was going what the backlash for that was gonna be. But I said, I feel like it's important to put something like that out there, especially because the books are all about magic where anything can happen. And I'm not gonna spoil it here, but it might come off as controversial in a lot of ways, but I fought to keep it there. And I hope that fighting pays off. Um, I mean, I don't usually like write a lot of scenes that I eventually wind up completely removing from my book anyway. But although in the Bone Witch there was like one scene where I'd written like a flashback where it's basically the three older Asha, which is Polaire, Michaela, and they basically Thea gets this sort of flashback of them infiltrating one of the Ashaka and stealing something from the Ashaka as when they were young. And like eventually I had to cut it out because it was like the book was already going far too long. I didn't want to like it was like a side thing that I decided didn't really contribute much to the story, although I thought it really enhanced their personalities, like which of them was the lookout, which of them was the actual person grabbing things, which is always Polaire. um and right now actually I am working on a new adult book. I am not sure, it's definitely not YA. um it is basically I mentioned this a lot on Twitter. It's my bi vampire throuple book, basically a bi vampire threesome book. That's sort of like Castlevania meets The Witcher. So and I found myself keeping on rewriting so many scenes. Like this is the first book I've had that actually had a beta reader because I was a lone wolf for the most part. Like I just wrote and didn't really get a lot of readers to read it. But this one had a beta reader because I had a friend who is a huge vampire fan. I was gonna say a different word, vampire fan. And she wanted me to she wanted to read it, so I gave it to her, and pretty much all of the input, all of the feedback she keeps giving me is more sex, more sex, more sex. So, um,
Bring your kids there.
she's like, you can't write a vampire threesome if there is no sex in there. You are, you know, you are going lower, like your expectations will be lowered if you don't do this. So I mean that's basically it. I have been rereading so many romance novels, trying to get into that mindset, trying to figure out what works in a sex scene and what doesn't. And this is very weird for me because back when I was writing fan fiction, way back, I was known for that. So, I think sex scenes are the ones I am rewriting and the ones that I am cutting. So, like for the most part. So it this is a first for me. So I don't know what's gonna happen. To I trust her to know her smut. So so I will follow mostly what she says.
Hi. Hi.
Oh my
Hello.
Hi.
That's why I was
Okay.
asking her if you wanted to go first.
Hi, kid.
Can he hear us?
Sorry, Kate.
You can hear Rin for sure.
About time, revive vampires. Yes. Okay. What about you, Kay?
Yeah, I had a similar fear as Rin did with with particularly the sequels with those kind of scenes where I was scared that they would get removed, but they did not get removed. They did not even get edited. So, but yeah, Oriñaro, the first book that was really straightforward. There was no cuts from first drafting stage. We added a lot of scenes to it.
Those
Book
scenes.
No, not in book one.
Oh my god, are we getting angry sex?
There's something.
Wait, I'm
I
excited now.
I feel bad for the audiobook narrator. I really need to send her like flowers or something because but uh yeah, like book 2 being a middle novel and an epic fantasy, there were a few scenes that I had to shuffle around after the first draft stage. And I ended up cutting like a whole big arc of that in the first act. And then so it really depends on the novel for me. It really depends on what's happening in the novel. If it's a very straightforward like a less than 130k words, I usually don't cut. I usually end up adding more. But when I start doing the really thick ones, like the 200k novels, those usually end up needing some cuts to it because just for pacing reasons. But then sometimes I end up adding more, but it feels different. Like because when you're drafting a really long epic fantasy novel, sometimes you get tired as well, and you end up having a lot of scenes where nothing happens, and then that's gonna be pointed out during editing, and then you end up like you've had time to rest, you've had time to think about what to do there. So now you know, oh, I can do this scene, and then it ends up being more like faster paced, which is the way I write epic fantasy is I need it to be fast paced now because there's just way too much going against you, and like I can't have slow pacing on top of that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm a middle grade author, or am I? Just kidding. Just kidding. Seriously, like I kind of get you. Like you're adding scenes, like just just doing nothing. One of the comments that my editor told me before was like, you know what, you can make an entire book of Sab just eating. Like, it's like she spent so much time eating, and I had to cut a lot of eating
Oh.
moments. Yeah, I cut like a
Filipino.
tinola scene.
Oh
uh
no.
What
Can
did
you
I?
add one to your next one because it will make my kid eat tinola?
Oh,
Yeah.
Your kid doesn't eat
oh
tinola?
my God! My next book has yema though, and it has a
Oh
recipe, so
no,
you might have to like.
because your
Alright.
first book had kare kare,
Yeah, that's correct.
and she asked me to make it, so I had to learn to make it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That's so sweet.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to integrate like
what
tinola.
so
it has a lot of vegetables.
Yeah, with vegetables. No, I think there's like adobo roll, and there's like the second book has a lot of foods in it because like Jolina uh is like a daughter of a cook who's managing a carinderia. So it's mostly carinderia food in there. And Yema, that's that's like a potion on it, like basically roofied. Gayumad. Gayumad is the Yema with love potion. So I just expect that you're gonna be
Oh.
making Yema. Because there's like a recipe at the back of it. It's,
All right. So, sorry, before we continue, let me just for the non-Filipinos in the audience. So, a carinderia is a small street
eateries.
side eatery where we get like the food's really cheap and it's home cooked. So it's really popular. It's a really popular option with workers, students, people who want good filling food but don't have a lot of cash to spend. And the food that we mentioned, we talked about yema is what is it? A candy?
Candy, yeah.
It's like a sticky,
Candy.
sticky sweet candy.
Yeah. It's
Wrapped
kind of like a custard.
like the normal
Yeah.
candy.
yeah, it's like a custard
Yeah, it's
candy.
kind of
Yeah.
it's custard candy, and there's custard in it's a hard shell, and then there's custard inside. Tinola is a stew with chicken and papaya and malung. What's the English of malunggay?
I don't know. I use chili leaves.
The silence.
Oh, we have a question.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Yeah,
Wait, it's there in the comments.
here. One.
No, but there will be like a karaoke scene.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I love karaoke songs.
Jolina kind of like sucks when it comes to singing, but Claudine is a singer, and she's gonna be like it's like by the beach though, like in a mansion by the beach. So it's like
Close
Jolina is
enough.
close enough, but like, Jolina is Claudine is like a rich kid, and Jolina is like it kind of reminds me of like a bit of my childhood when like we had like we had a comfortable life, and then things happened, like somebody got sick, so it kind of her situation is kind of like that. She was like thrust into like a into the lower middle class status from being having a comfortable life in Manila. So they're gonna be a lot of personality clashes between the two of them, and Jolina is totally going to take advantage of the gayuma. Like you guys know, like the gayuma is a love potion, but the love potion that we are used to in the Philippines, it's not like one of those romantic. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love kind of love potion. Like it's all about control. Like basically, they're like I've read some instances, and some people told me like they felt like they had gayuma done on them. Like they would like even like sign in the deed of their house to a certain person because they just felt they had to do it, and then eventually they're just gonna snap out of it, and I have a feeling like they were controlled or something because they felt like somebody put gayuma on them, and that's the premise that's gonna go on with this. It's basically about revenge, and she's going to like going to really make use of it, like, and then in the process she's gonna learn that maybe this person isn't so bad after all, like so it's gonna blur the lines of what is true friendship. something like that.
Oh my god, wait. So the post is in the Yema, right?
Sorta,
The Yema.
kinda,
Mga kwento ni Lola. There.
sorta.
It's a kwento ni Lola episode.
Okay.
It's much
So
more
for those who
magical.
don't know,
It's about Lola, no?
Once upon a time, it's the TV show that we used to have here, and it's got like it usually has a magical element, and there's usually a lesson that the character learns at the end of the show. It was a childhood staple for a lot of us who were kids in the 90s. So yeah, Sugar and Spice is once upon a time in book form.
Kinda. Well, it's definitely an ode to 90s nostalgia. That was for sure. I mean, like it was like kind of like that. I mean, like all the love themes in the 90s. I try to incorporate them somehow through the names, and the mom's name is Peachy, I think. No, it's Sunshine. Sunshine. And I think only the grandfather has a normal name. The rest has like all the 90s references. So yeah,
I just want to add that while you were explaining what the concept of Gayuma and stuff, and then I remember that you were talking about Yema a while ago. I was like, so it's Gayema? It's like that's what I'm
No,
getting.
go to bed.
I'm sorry. Like I made a face a while ago when it hit me. I was like, oh my god, this is like a I felt like I solved the code, like the mystery. I was like, that's why it's in the Yema. I was like, that's why.
So I think Kay, you should expect your kid to number one, ask for a dog. Number two,
We
have you
dogs
like
already.
more dogs, like probably in particular like a Jack Russell Terrier,
Oh.
and another one is have you cook yema, because we have like it's gonna be like the recipe at the back. It's been vetted by Scholastic, so it's totally kid safe, but we do require to have like parental uh uh like a parent around to supervise. So I think you're gonna have fun. Like you're gonna have fun cooking with your kid. It's gonna be quite messy, but it's gonna be fun. And she's probably going to insist to cook it herself.
Yeah.
So I'm just preparing you.
I can get their dad to do it with them. So
You're just gonna clean up.
no. I'm even worse at that.
Thanks, guys. Let's move to the next question, Shealea.
So now we're going to talk about have you read any books that are just so good that they influenced you to improve your craft or to work harder or to study more about like the intricacies of writing? So is there a book that inspired you in that way?
Well, let's just forget about the President Snow sequel. But I'm actually like I've been inspired by like Suzanne Collins' writing. It's just so, for some reason, it's concise. It's straight to the point. But somehow she manages to create a world that is so vibrant, something like that. So it's probably like Hunger Games for me. And there's like the sister aspect of it. So probably that's one of the things that I'm like I'm a sucker for sibling stories. Like they make me cry all the time. Like I have a sister myself, so yeah. So sibling stories are like my kryptonite.
Same.
I think that's one thing a lot of people forget about the Hunger Games is that at the heart of it, it's a story really about how Katniss feels about her younger sister.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's not about the love triangle, people. It's not.
Yeah, and I don't like it because the guy's name is named Gail. Okay, it's the total difference. No, but seriously, I love she's a Suzanne Collins' writing is like a great mentor text. That it's what do you call it? It's great that every sentence that she puts in really matters. Like sometimes like you have to go back from when you're like reading book 2, you feel like going back to book 1 and then just like, oh yeah, she mentioned that. That's interesting. And it kind of like I kind of like books like that that make me think, like putting subtle things in the early books or earlier parts of the book, and then that you don't think it matters, but after that you go through the whole book or go through the whole series, it's gonna like matter. Like in Katniss case, like the state of her mother, like in the first chapter of the first book, she was like really annoyed at her mother for being like basically a shell of herself. And then at the end of book 3, she was a shell of herself, kind of like her mom. So kind of like that. I love it when things come full circle. So it's probably, yeah, Hunger Games is probably one of my that's one of the reasons why that's one of my the book that I refer to. Yeah, basically, yeah, it's a masterclass in world building. It definitely is. So yeah, that would be mine. I'm not. I've read a lot of books in my whole life, but I think that would be that would be the book that I could say that made me want to, in a way, like have something like it. Because like especially since I write MG, like with MG, like every word is going to matter, because it has to matter, because you can't just put like this a paragraph just because you want to talk about something. Kids are gonna get bored. They easily get bored. They're not as forgiving. If you like give them like a useless chapter, they're not gonna want to read it again, or it's gonna be hard for them to get into it. So that's one of the things, like that's the thing that I got when I was reading the Hunger Games. That's one of the things that I learned, and I do hope it's gonna be useful for others too if you like look at it in that way. There.
Thanks, Gail.
Sure.
Rin, Kate?
Um, well, okay, I can start. My favorite book of all time is actually The Count of Monte Cristo by Edmond Dantes. It's by Alexander Dumas, and I was really happy to hear,
It's
like,
like petty to the
very
nth
recently,
level.
a couple of years ago, like a couple of years ago, that Alexander Dumas is actually black, which is kind of cool, and I don't think a lot of people actually know that. And he for me he is a master class when it comes to plot, when it comes to moving along the action, like the action scenes, the the stakes and the conflicts of what the characters have to figure out. And the tragedy especially is something that I really love, how bittersweet that book, the ending is, and it sort of inspired me. The bittersweet ending actually inspired me to write the bittersweet ending of the Bone Witch series. So that's the sort of ending I kind of like my most of my books to be. And um, for just prose, like writing technique, writing style, my favorite right now, especially since the book came out a couple of weeks ago and just hit the New York Times bestseller list, which I'm really happy about. It's Gideon the Ninth, which is a master class, but in an entirely different way. When it comes to writing techniques and writing skill, you just read her book and you go like, oh my gosh, how is this possible? How can you write something like this? Because it's like a meme in book form. That's the best that I can describe it. It's a meme in book form. Like, it's nihilistic. It's very sarcastic, pessimistic. It's like a chat forum for edgelords, but couched in a very it's really hard to explain Gideon the Ninth, which is why I like it so much, because you can't really describe it and compare it with other books. It feels like it's the first of its kind at when it first came out, and it's that inventiveness and that resourcefulness and that that uniqueness in storytelling. I really love that. So
I've been meaning to pick up Gideon the Ninth, so it just shot to the top of my TBR. Thanks, Rin. Okay, go for it.
For me, it's Robin Hobb's books, which is the first time I actually experienced fantasy from a very very narrow point of view. Basically, like the first, like the Assassin's Apprentice book is just about Fitz. It's first person point of view, and I just love how it just went into detail about all of Fitz's feelings and his relationships, and the plot itself is just like in the background. Whereas the way this book was written was like the focus is really on the character, and it's the first time I experienced something that is so character driven. It just like by the end of it, Fitz, you know how this character feels about things, how he like how his relationships are, not just romantic relationships, but basically how he grew up. And it's just it inspired me to really think about how I'm writing, because like I read it in 2007, which was like I was right in the middle of all that query like desert. And it 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 changed my approach to how I write, because I love stuff like that. Like I love Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and like I love it when it's a character study. It's not even like character driven. It's not even enough to describe it. It's a character study. It's about that character and the plot. While like I do write books now that have like the plot is very involved with the character, but I love seeing how the character navigates that plot as they are, like as like their character growth is the most important thing. And yeah, with the way Robin Hobb approaches her books, every single one is like that. And like the world is very detailed and everything, but the characters are like it's central to the series. And yeah, that it just changed the way I approach it, which is like it's interesting because now that I've published a book, I kept seeing people who said, the last time I read a book like this was when I read Robin Hobb's book, which is, you know,
Highest
yeah,
compliment, I
yeah,
guess.
I was pretty
And
happy about
compliment
that. So,
ever,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I just love how she, like, it's almost like she doesn't care about what the reader expects. She just cares about exploring
Yeah.
this character. It's just
Like,
you know,
Like
like the
I
character's
love and I hate Robin Hood books. I love it because she's really, really good, but I hate it because she keeps kicking the
yeah,
characters when they're down and she doesn't care.
yeah.
Right?
So
Like
yeah, that
with
she's
Fitz, like
she's my
yeah.
she I like that. That's the one I look up to the most. Like I really admire her
oh
work.
my god. I actually have a copy of her books. I'm definitely going to put that into my immediate priority now, since I like your
Yeah.
book so much.
Yeah, I am. Hang on, I'm on Kindle. I'm on Kindle. I'm looking for Robin Hood books.
Like live ship, her live ship trilogy is good and her Assassins trilogy is also good. Those are the two main things that I think she's most known as. Most known for.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I have Assassin's Apprentice or something. I'll check later, but I do know I have one of her books. I'm excited now, but I'm also scared because of what you said.
Oh, it's
um,
it's just a lot of
so,
pain.
But
It's
so I just bought Assassin's Apprentice,
read
and I'm scared.
I've read Kay's book and like it is like it does have that Robin Hood
Quality.
element. Like when I first read your book, I always thought like the first thing that came to mind was, the protagonist is a very so typically Filipina in that she's always expected to be like the emotional backbone of the family, and even regardless of whether or not she's supposed to, and but the thing is everybody expects her to be, so that's what she tries to struggle with, and at the same time come into her own. And I really feel that because that's really like the like fits from Assassin's Apprentice. Like he tries to come into his own despite all of the expectations that's heaped on him, despite not really wanting those expectations, and I think that's very similar. So yeah, you really does have, it really does have that Robin Hood. I'm sorry, it really does have that Robin Hood treatment. I'm also standing here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, someone said, "Oh my goodness, you all made the same I know this face" when we were talking about the Filipina experience. And yes, yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, so yeah.
My wallet does not thank you, but thank you for the title. Um, all right, so we
Okay,
have
one
we have
last
one
question.
last.
One
Yeah, go
last
ahead,
question.
Shealea.
Okay, so our next question is speaking of. Wait, sorry. What's one genre you haven't written yet that you'd love to explore someday?
I want to write a rom com. It's probably because of all the K dramas that I've been watching. I mean,
I
like,
dreamed it.
I've watched so many K dramas ever since the pandemic started. Like, I just one of the ones that I recently completed was like "It's Okay to Not Be Okay," and Kim Soo Hyun is just so.
Oh, you love dramas,
Yeah.
Gail.
Yeah, the K dramas. I mean, like honestly, though, I mean, there's something about the K dramas that's really interesting for me that that I find nice about them is that the characters are like really alive. You know what I mean? Like, and there's a certain pattern to the plot, but when it comes to character development, character the main characters of a K drama usually comes alive, I've seen that particularly. Like that's one of the reasons why like, for my next book, my peg is like Crash Landing on You and Descendants of the Sun. But before that, I like also watch like Hotel de Luna, and then there's uh what do you call that? The other one, Mystic Pop Up Bar. It's also nice, and there's also like basically there are a lot of K dramas that I've been watching lately. And Memories of the Alhambra. My husband liked that, so like yeah, it's a husband friendly series. There's like just a teeny bit of romance on it, but it's mostly like kind of like sci-fi fantasy kind of thing. And it's interesting how they like integrate the romance into different genres uh of um of TV shows. Like there's a sci-fi fantasy and there's romance, and there's like romance and there's fantasy, there's paranormal and there's romance, there's like historical drama, there's like a military drama or something like that. It's like it's really interesting. So probably I want to like write a rom-com one day, like because of all this dramas that I've been watching lately. So I don't know. Maybe. Do you think
Oh,
your
we have a
character?
question, but we can get to it later. Okay, now.
Is there like what do you think your characters would watch K dramas? Well, definitely Jolina would watch a K drama with her mom. uh, no, 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 no. No, it's not gonna feature Warren and Jolina. No, 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 no. No, no. I'm just like actually like the one that I'm working on, like still secret though, but it's, let's just say that the research, that my love for Philippine history and my Tagalog background, my Tagalog I'm as Tagalog as can be. So I want to put that in this next book, and there's gonna be, I don't know. Uh, let's just see. But the rom com that I want to do is like present time in a pandemic situation. So so yeah. So I don't know. Maybe let's see. It's probably just gonna have like a spattering of magic into it. But for sure, if I'm gonna do a rom com, it's gonna be present time. It's I don't know. I just kind of like find it interesting with how you're going to like have a romance in this situation right now, and
The
you're supposed to be
pandemic.
socially distancing, like right. So yeah, I mean, if you go out, like if you go out in the malls, like before we went back to MECQ, which is like a modified enhanced community quarantine. I swear we have so much out of those quarantine community whatever's. Anyway, like, when before we went back to it, like there was this time like my husband and I were running errands, and we just had to eat lunch. And the thing is, each table can only sit one person. But we bought like we were at Robinson's Magnolia, and we had like the Sincerity restaurant oyster cake. It's like really good, and it's like huge. It's like around this big, and we had to eat in two separate tables. So you can just imagine the oyster cake jumping from one table to another, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a new normal. And it was like, the problem is I'm kind of clumsy, so my husband is like, okay, let's just put it on your table because it might come flying. It might fly away, and we just cry if our oyster cake ended up on the floor. So yeah, it's gonna be quite interesting if you're gonna have like a date like that, set it in a pandemic situation. It's gonna be like, it's kind of funny in a way, sad but funny. So yeah. So if I'm gonna write a rom com, it's definitely going to incorporate that.
I
Yes, it
feel like
was.
that's the perfect way to describe like our government's response to the pandemic. Sad
Yeah.
but funny.
Sad but funny. I mean, we are from the same household, but we have to sit on two separate tables because it's just, you just cannot sit on the same table literally because it's like blocked off.
There's like an
So
X on it.
yeah, there's not just an X on it. There's no chair literally in front of you. So it's just one person, one table. So imagine if you're trying to share food. And then it's like it was difficult, and the thing is, it was like there's a huge gap, like probably around a meter. So like I had to like if he wanted to get the oyster cake, he has to like reach out over a meter just to get the oyster cake or something. It was really exhausting. That's all I can say. But it would be interesting to write about it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Okay. Rin, go for it.
Okay. Yes, what genre would you like to
Uh,
explore?
Well, I already mentioned it. I was already writing it. So vampires, basically, uh, and I don't want the. I mean, I know that there was that early 2000s genre thing where there were love stories revolving around vampires and angels, like fallen angels, and I
Twilight.
werewolf. I don't remember
Twilight.
the werewolf specific story, but there were like mermaids, I think, and sea creatures and Bigfoot. I don't know. There was actually a Bigfoot erotica line that became super popular, and my head
What?
hurt so much. Yes,
My
What?
head is
it
hurting.
earned the author millions. Okay, people
I've heard
were
about dinosaur erotica, but Bigfoot erotica,
no,
no.
Bigfoot was the. I think Bigfoot was the one before dinosaur.
The dinosaur?
It's basically Bigfoot and then dinosaur and then that haunted vagina thing. Um,
Oh my god.
I mean, it was all those supernatural creatures thing were just basically revolving around love stories and stuff, and I wanted to bring it back into. It's not really the work that I'm doing isn't really urban fantasy per se, because it's also set in a very fantasy setting, but I wanted to bring the vampire genre back into more action, more gritty stuff, more like like high stakes, high concept sort of things. And I'm hoping that with this one, I write something that sort of distances myself from the current Midnight Sun hype. So Well, Alien Smut is just basically, if you're a gamer, Alien Smut is just basically Mass Effect, the video game. Because you can romance aliens and you can be intimate with aliens there. So that I don't need to write anything else about that unless it's fan fiction about that. So another one that I really want to do is cyberpunk, and I think because I'm a huge fan of anime. Like I love anime. I think Filipinos hello anime. Voltes 5, you have to Ghost Fighter whatever. Um, I love one of my favorite anime series of all time is Ghost in the Shell and Psychopath, and I really want to write something with that sort of treatment where and what really attracts me to it is that the gender fluidity of that concept. Like if you can be anybody, then you can be everybody. So that's the whole basis in my head right now. I haven't written it down yet, but I want to at some point in the future. And I mean lastly I might because my agent suggested it and we were looking at it before because somebody there was some stuff happening behind the scenes that I can't really say right now. Um, I might be leaning into MG in the future as well, and I mentioned it a few days ago. It's gonna be I guess Filipino mythology set in a
Yay,
mythical.
you're doing it!
It's like Filipino gods and goddesses, Filipino diwatas, with the background of a very mythical, very fantastical Divisoria. So
Is that the one that you told me about? Is it the one that you told me about before?
yeah. Divisoria is for the non-Filipinos in the chat. Divisoria is basically the main hub in Manila where you buy like really really cheap goods. Like there's like 10 malls like linked together in one spot, and then there's huge bazaars. We call them changges outside, and they sell really really cheap things, and they sell almost everything. Like you can see like rat poison being sold next to school supplies. It's that varied, it's that chaotic, and I spent a lot of my childhood there because my parents had the store there in Divisoria, so I spent a lot of time there. And when I was older, I roam that's like my tambayan, which is sort of like the place that you like to go to the most. And I really really want to write an MG treatment of that based on my own experiences there. So
Okay,
Magical
how about
Divisoria. That is just blowing my mind.
I'm trying to imagine it already. I was like lagging, like But anyway, how about you, Kay? Like, what genre would you like to explore?
So I have very heavy like plot B romances in my books, and people have been telling me I should write romance, like a fantasy romance. But I also really like horror. So I don't know. That's conflicting. Like, yeah. So maybe I'll combine them. But yeah, like actually, horror is something that I really want to tackle in the future. Probably when I get sick of epic fantasy, I'm gonna take a break and do more. Yeah, try my hand at that. I've also thought about space opera, but it's very similar. Like some of the beats are similar to epic fantasy. It's epic fantasy in space, but yeah, like so far it's just been so busy. Ghost smut, yeah, yeah. But that probably. Yeah, I've just been so busy that I actually there's been so many books that I'm writing right now that it's just a thought like in the future. If I ever get sick of this, it's just I'm not sick of it yet.
Horror, like that's one genre that I can't do because like I one thing about me is that I don't know if they say it's probably because of the creativity or like because I'm an artist and stuff like that. But for some reason, I feel paranormal situations like Rin once tried to bring me to a haunted like wanted to bring me to a haunted hotel, like let's explore this haunted hotel. I'm like no. I was already feeling so heavy, like there was like vibes in that place that I found so uncomfortable. Like I don't know why. It's just that whenever there's like a presence around, I feel it. So like horror is probably a genre that I'd never touch because it's so real. So
You,
I
you
want
guys
to
know
avoid it.
you guys know BuzzFeed Unsolved, right? Like with Shane
Yes.
and with yes. I was proposing to her like we do
No,
that because I am Shane and she is the scaredy cat like because I
no.
know I ghost hunt like I go to we once spent several hours in like this underground cemetery like like taking pictures and stuff. I think it was Nagcarlan Cemetery somewhere. I think Nagcarlan Cemetery. It's the only underground cemetery, one of the only underground cemeteries in the Philippines, and it was supposed to be the meeting place of where, a meeting place for Katipuneros. So it was way back during the Spanish era, and we were looking for stuff there. I mean, I love to ghost hunt, and I always ask Gail, can you
No,
please
no.
go with me? Can we explore this thing? Look, we're already here in the building. Can't we just go in again and explore the rooms? And she's like, no, makiawak mo na, no.
No. For some reason, I just feel those things. Those get those feelings. Like there was this time I think I was like in a really old building. Like if Rin is gets mistaken for being a ghost, ghosts actually make themselves felt around me. So there was just, like this building, and I was going down, and it just stopped at the 13th floor, and there's no one there. Like literally, and I just had like goosebumps, and I felt like the elevator move, like someone is inside the elevator. I was like, oh my god, let me get out of here. I'm never coming back. And
But see,
then later,
I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite. Not I
no.
never feel anything. Like I can go into the most haunted place unimaginable, and I do not feel anything. Everybody's getting the creeps, and I'm just there like. I mean, that's why I get mistaken for a ghost by Japanese people. So, you know, I mean, I feel nothing. Like even there's like people are claiming they just saw a ghost beside me or something, which actually happened before. Like they saw a ghost over my shoulder, reading something on my computer screen while I was at
Yeah,
work
you
at
know,
the
fan
office.
fiction, the ghost
Yeah,
that
while I
likes
was
fan.
reading fan fiction actually. So, and I didn't feel anything. She was freaking out. She worked in the same cubicle I was, and she was freaking out. And as it turned out, she didn't. None of us knew this. Sorry, those were my kids. We didn't know when it happened to us, but it turned out that that office had that exact ghost that she was describing that was leaning over me, and she didn't know beforehand. So I don't know. They don't they don't really bother me. They just read my fan fiction, I guess.
No,
You know,
no, I cannot.
I just realized we're talking about ghosts and stuff, and it's night time for Kay. So, Kay, we're sorry.
No problem.
Because we are interested in seeing Kay write a horror room.
Right, a horror book. Yes, I'm just basically saying why I cannot write a horror book ever. I mean, I'm probably right, a mystery. That's for one thing, like the whole clues thing, but definitely not horror. It's just too close to home. It's like I feel like if I write it down, it makes it even more real. Yeah, and considering how visual I am, I mean, like that's one of the things about me. That's why I find it so hard to read Rin's horror books. Is that every time you describe something, the moment that you say it, it pops into my head. So like, so that's why I just get so scared easily and like, no, definitely not. That's probably one genre that I would never write. I mean, I'm not gonna say anything, but I probably might have already written adult under a different name, but no, we're not gonna get into that. And the whips that I'm doing, they're not adult. In case you're wondering, no,
I'm sorry if things
definitely
are a
not.
little noisy here, okay? I have my kid is
Hello.
hi. Look, say hi.
Hello.
Say hi. Flying kiss. Flying kiss. That's Altair. His name is Altair, another Assassin's Creed character.
So Rin, my son's nickname is actually Connor.
Oh, we can start a team.
Yeah.
We can start an
Assassin's Creed.
team.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing. For answering our last question. So, it's 12:30 here. We're about to have lunch for those here in the Philippines. So let's end our live show with a question to bring us into the lunch mood. A bonus question that Shealea and I ask for every Filipino author that we interview, and that question is, what is your favorite ulam?
Yes.
Ulam?
So
Ulam.
whoever wants to go.
Sinigang. Sinigang.
Yes, sinigang.
Yeah.
There's only one right answer.
Kare-kare
Yeah.
for me. I like
Bicol
kare-kare.
Express.
Oh, I know
Wow.
Bicol Express too.
Oh my god, you have high
Well-
tolerance for heat as well. I love spicy food.
She's
Oh, yeah.
Bicolana, so
Oh yeah. Totally forgot.
I have another I have a lot of
Yeah,
other
so-
answers, but I feel compelled to say Bicol Express.
Bicolana pride. So there are people in the audience saying Team Kare-Kare. Personally, I am an adobo fan. So yeah. There's
Also,
adobo gang.
gang. No, we're the sinigang people. How dare you? How dare you do this to me? There are several variants. What the heck?
Now, actually, I like sinigang. It's because it's like
Alright.
just the Tagalogness of it, the Filipino-ness of it. Like, I mean, you have like the tamarind-based soup, and you have like all these ingredients that are basically available here in the Philippines. So that's one of the things that I like about it. It's like the versatility of that dish. Like, you can make it spicy. I like it spicy and like really sour. So yeah, that's why that's how I'm going to like talk up
Alright.
sinigang.
Oh my god, I once tried this dish called sinigang sisig. As a kapangpangan, it confused me.
How does that work?
Sinigang,
How does that work?
it's like, it actually does look like sisig, but it has like a sauce that's like dehydrated, not like super, it has like a sinigang taste to it. So it's like broth, not soup.
Yeah, I think I've had that. Not
Yeah.
exactly a fan though. I
Yeah,
still
I
like
got
the
confused by it.
yeah, but they do like have like the when it comes to kare kare, I like having all the I usually pick out the what do you call that, the goto part. I
The
always pick the toalya. Yeah, I always pick it out and I eat it. Like I take it every time. It annoys my husband because he gets stuck with the pata.
For non-American for like non-Filipinos, tualia is basically I think tripe, beef tripe.
Tripe.
That is an integral part of kare-kare. And with kare-kare, actually, I'm very picky when it comes to bagoong. Bagoong is like the shrimp paste that companies a kare-kare, and some I really don't want to eat. Like I got used to eating kare-kare without bagoong just because I'm so picky when it comes to bagoong. And you know, it has a different taste, and that's what I like most of all, anyway. So
The peanut tita is that like yeah. Like, well, Sab likes kare kare. she's obsessed with kare kare. Like, I don't know why I made her a kare kare fan instead of a sinigang one. It just
Yes.
she
Top 10
she
anime
felt
betrayal.
She felt like a kare-kare fan though. And I don't know. It's me. It's like sinigang all the way. And my absolute favorite is like salmon belly sinigang, and like you have like miso, and like you have like the instead of the instead of kangkong, you have like the mustard leaves, mustasa. Yeah, yeah. Because like whenever I buy kangkong and I leave it in the kitchen. For some reason, it ends up on the floor because the ducks love the kangkong, and somehow I don't know how they do it, but they always get my batch of kangkong, and the next thing I know, it's like all over the floor. And the ducks are eating half. The ducks just ate half of it and step on half of it. So it's better to just have mustasa instead. It's a bad idea to have kangkong here.
Callan would like sisig.
Sisig.
As a kapampangan, we stand.
My husband is a
Because
sisig fan.
he's a big fan of alcohol. So, what other good ulam to pair it up with than sisig?
Crispy pata. That's so unhealthy.
Yes.
No.
Oh, and by the way,
Yeah,
like
it is.
recently I saw this Facebook this Instagram ad for 100% crab fat paste. Like 100%. There's no extender whatsoever, and you can see like there's like the bits and pieces of the crab fat is actually like there's basically it's not a paste at all. It's just pure crab fat. And
Oh
like
my god.
I'm supposed to be eating healthier now.
Oh my god. Okay,
No.
I think at this point we're all like super hungry. All of the food that was mentioned was just like,
I'm so sorry.
and
My kid is
Yeah, I'm
and
describing
coincidentally,
crab
my
fat
mom's
now.
like, yeah. Yeah, so I think we should like end on this note so we can, I feel like we're all in the mood already to like dive into food. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, Rin, Kay, Gail. You've been like super wonderful throughout, and I think everyone's had fun. I laughed so hard I can feel abs. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys. Thank you everyone. Thank you to all
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my god, do I end it?
He wants